Picture this. A woman standing by her window late at night, staring at the city lights, phone in hand, scrolling through old messages. Her husband is asleep in the next room, the house quiet, the air still. And yet her mind is loud. She's not thinking about the man who loves her, the one who pays the bills, raises the children, and remembers to lock the door every night. She's thinking about someone else, someone who makes her feel awake. This isn't about morality. It's not even about sex. It's about chemistry. Literally, brain chemistry. Modern relationships are collapsing under the weight of something ancient, the human addiction to novelty. And while both men and women experience it, the way it manifests in women has become one of the most misunderstood and destructive forces in modern love. Let's start with a brutal truth. Falling in love is not an emotional experience. It's a chemical event. When two people meet, the brain releases a cocktail of neurotransmitters: dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, oxytocin. It's a perfect storm of pleasure, obsession, and reward. Every glance, every text, every kiss triggers another hit of dopamine, the same chemical released when you win money, eat sugar, or take cocaine. That first stage of love, the butterflies, the obsession, the constant craving, it's not love. It's addiction. And every addict eventually crashes. In the early days, a woman feels alive in ways she hasn't felt in years. The man she's fallen for becomes the source of her high. Every word he says is fascinating. Every silence feels intimate. She'll stay up all night texting, replaying his messages in her head, imagining futures that don't exist yet. Her brain tells her this is destiny, but it's not. It's dopamine, whispering lies dressed as love. And here's the problem. The brain builds tolerance. The same conversation that once gave her butterflies now feels predictable. The same man who once thrilled her now feels ordinary. The chemistry fades, not because the love is gone, but because the novelty is. Most women don't realize this. Nobody teaches them that the emotional intensity of the beginning is supposed to fade. Movies, books, and social media teach them that if a spark dies, the relationship is dead. So when the chemical high disappears, they interpret the absence of butterflies as the absence of love. They don't know that this transition from dopamine to oxytocin is what real love actually is. That's when the danger starts. Because the same brain that once made her addicted to one man now starts craving a new source of stimulation. And in the modern world, novelty is everywhere. It could be the coworker who compliments her in the hallway, the gym trainer who smiles a little too long, the random message from an old friend on Instagram. Each one of these moments is a potential hit of dopamine, and her brain recognizes it instantly. Not consciously, chemically. She feels seen, desired, interesting again. Not because she's met someone better, but because she's met someone new. Her logical mind says, I'm just being polite. Her subconscious says, we're alive again. This is where the script begins. Not the romantic script, but the neurological one. In the first few years of a relationship, dopamine runs the show. It fuels attraction, motivation, passion. But dopamine isn't designed for permanence. It's designed for pursuit. Once the reward is achieved, once the relationship stabilizes, dopamine steps aside and oxytocin takes over. Oxytocin is calm, stable bonding. It's what makes long-term love possible. But compared to dopamine, it feels boring. That's the trap. Because women are told to follow their feelings. But feelings are weather. They change with the wind. Commitment is climate. It takes years to build. In therapy rooms across the world, you'll hear the same sentence repeated like a mantra of confusion. I love him, but I'm not in love with him. Translation: my dopamine is gone, and I don't understand what that means. Here's the irony. The very stability women claim to want, safety, emotional security, consistency, is the same thing that kills the dopamine high. And because they confuse chemical excitement with love, they sabotage the very relationships that could give them real happiness. Society doesn't help. Every song, every movie, every influencer screams the same message. You deserve to feel butterflies forever. So when a natural calm of long-term love sets in, women panic. They start scrolling social media, comparing their real lives to other people's highlight reels. They start wondering if maybe they settled, if maybe they married the wrong man, if maybe, just maybe, there's someone out there who could make them feel alive again. The problem isn't the relationship. It's the expectation that love should always feel like the first 6 months. I once spoke to a woman named Clara. Married 8 years, 2 kids, good husband. One day, she told me she felt dead inside. She wasn't unhappy, just numb. Then a new guy joined her office. Funny, charismatic, single. He made her laugh, complimented her perfume, remembered small details. For the first time in years, she felt that spark again. And in her mind, it felt like fate. But it wasn't fate. It was biochemistry. Every interaction triggered the old circuits, the ones that had gone quiet in her marriage. She wasn't addicted to the man. She was addicted to the feeling of being new again. Clara didn't cheat physically, but emotionally, she began living in 2 realities, the stable life that grounded her and the fantasy that thrilled her. Each message from him gave her a rush. Each night, with her husband, felt dull by comparison. Her brain was making a false comparison, reality versus dopamine. That's the cruel joke of modern love. The brain can't tell the difference between falling in love and getting high. And when the high fades, people start looking for another dealer. This addiction to novelty has been supercharged by technology. A woman used to encounter maybe 1 or 2 potential sources of attention a week. Now, her phone is a dopamine machine. Notifications, likes, messages, each one a microdose. It's not that women want to cheat. It's that their brains are constantly stimulated by the possibility of newness. Every "Hey stranger" message, every flirty comment, every photo that gets extra likes. Each one is a hit of validation, a reminder that she still has it. It's the same cycle as gambling. You don't win every time, but every now and then something hits and the brain lights up. That's all it takes to keep the addiction alive. This is why so many modern relationships feel fragile. Not because love is gone, but because attention has become fragmented. Partners are no longer competing against other people. They're competing against the endless novelty of the digital world. And yet, this story doesn't have to end in tragedy, because understanding the mechanism changes everything. When a woman realizes that her feelings of excitement towards someone new are not proof of destiny, but a chemical illusion, she can resist the pull. She can recognize it for what it is, a temporary storm passing through her nervous system. The couples who survive long-term don't avoid boredom. They understand it. They build rituals that reignite small sparks without expecting the fireworks of the beginning. They find meaning in repetition, in shared jokes, routines, ordinary moments that become sacred through time. Love doesn't die when the chemicals fade. It begins. There's a phrase that perfectly describes the modern relationship crisis. We are drowning in attention, but starving for connection. Modern women live in an invisible marketplace, one not built on love, but on attention. Every notification, every compliment, every glance online or in real life is a tiny transaction in that market. And for many women, this market has replaced true intimacy. It's not about wanting sex or commitment anymore. It's about the rush of being noticed. Think about it. Before the internet, a woman's sense of desirability came from a small social circle, her community, workplace, maybe a few admirers. Today, her desirability is broadcast to the world. She posts a photo and within minutes gets 50 hearts, 10 comments, a message from a stranger saying, "You're gorgeous." Each of those reactions is a chemical ping, a little spark of dopamine, a reminder that she still has social power. This constant validation rewires the brain. It's no longer about connecting with one person deeply. It's about being seen by many. And that's where relationships begin to fracture. Because a woman addicted to attention can't fully bond. She may love her partner, but her mind is still open to the world's applause. And once her self-worth becomes tied to outside validation, no single relationship will ever be enough. The irony is painful. We live in the most connected time in human history, yet emotional fidelity has never been rarer. Women today are told they can have it all, but nobody tells them that having it all often means wanting it all simultaneously. Stability from one man, excitement from another, and attention from 1,000 strangers online. They crave both peace and thrill, both home and escape. There's a story I'll never forget. A woman named Julia, 34 years old, married, mother of one. She loved her husband, or at least she believed she did. But she couldn't stop checking her Instagram. She'd post a photo, a coffee cup, a mirror selfie, her child at the park, and then obsessively refresh the page. 10 likes, 20, 50. The more engagement she got, the better she felt. But the feeling never lasted. By evening, she felt empty again. So she'd post another picture. One day, an old acquaintance commented, "Still as beautiful as ever." Her pulse quickened. She clicked his profile, saw that he was single. She liked one of his photos. He liked one of hers back. Within days, they were messaging. Within weeks, they were sharing secrets. Within months, she was crying in her car, wondering how she'd gotten there. Julia didn't set out to betray anyone. She was chasing a feeling, aliveness. The same feeling that once came from her husband's eyes now came from a screen. What destroyed her marriage wasn't another man. It was a feedback loop of dopamine that made real intimacy feel dull by comparison. Most men don't understand how subtle this is. They think cheating starts with physical attraction. But in reality, it starts with attention, with micro-interactions that seem harmless but serve as psychological hooks. A like, a compliment, a playful comment. Each one adds a drop of fantasy into a woman's mind. And if her relationship has settled into routine, which every relationship eventually does, the fantasy starts to feel more real than her actual life. You can see it in small behaviors. She spends extra time choosing an outfit, but not for her partner. She checks her phone during dinner, smiling at something unseen. She seems emotionally elsewhere, present in body, absent in spirit. This is emotional infidelity, and it's far more corrosive than physical betrayal because it reprograms her emotional center. The man at home becomes background noise. The digital attention becomes her drug. But there's something deeper happening beneath the surface. It's not just about external validation. It's about identity. For centuries, women defined themselves through relationships: wife, mother, partner, caregiver. But modern culture told them to define themselves through freedom and self-expression. That sounds empowering, but it also created an internal conflict. Because love, real love, requires surrender, the giving up of constant novelty for the stability of one person. And for many, that feels like death. So they live with one foot in two worlds: the world of safety and the world of excitement. They tell themselves they can balance both until the scales collapse. There's another woman I once interviewed, Sabrina. She said something that struck me. When I'm faithful, I feel invisible. When I flirt, I feel alive. That sentence captures the psychology of modern infidelity better than any textbook ever could. It's not about betraying a partner. It's about escaping the version of themselves that feels ordinary. The tragedy is that this escape never lasts. Because no matter how many admirers you collect, the high always fades. Every new man eventually becomes familiar. Every thrilling message becomes another conversation. The brain gets used to the stimulation and starts craving more. It's not love they're chasing. It's the next chemical hit. And here's the part nobody wants to hear. This addiction to novelty isn't just personal, it's cultural. We live in a civilization engineered to keep us restless. Advertising tells women that satisfaction is one purchase away. Social media tells them that happiness is one post away. Therapists tell them that if you're not happy, you should leave. And so they do, over and over, trading real lives for chemical illusions. We have entire generations mistaking temporary excitement for long-term fulfillment, mistaking dopamine highs for soul connections. You see, the most dangerous thing about dopamine isn't how good it feels. It's how quietly it rewrites your perception. When you're high on it, you don't think rationally. You romanticize coincidences. He texted you at midnight. That must mean he's thinking of you. He remembered your favorite song. That must mean he understands you. But the truth is simpler. Your brain is manufacturing significance to justify the high. The same process happens in gambling addiction. A slot machine lights up, gives you a tiny win, and your brain floods with chemicals convincing you that you're due for a jackpot. In love, the jackpot is fantasy. And fantasies always bankrupt reality. What's remarkable is how predictable this cycle has become. It begins with boredom. Boredom leads to curiosity. Curiosity becomes attention. Attention becomes connection. Connection becomes secrecy. Secrecy becomes guilt. Guilt becomes justification. And justification becomes betrayal. Each step feels small, rational, even harmless, until you look back and realize you've walked a mile off the cliff. Women often tell themselves, "It just happened." But nothing just happens. It's 1,000 tiny choices made while pretending they don't count. And yet, beneath the chaos, there's still something profoundly human happening. The desperate search to feel alive in a world that constantly dulls our senses. So what's the solution? It's not control. It's consciousness. You can't fight chemistry with rules. You fight it with awareness. When a woman understands that her sudden attraction to someone new is a biochemical illusion, she regains power. She can observe her feelings without obeying them. She can feel the spark and still choose loyalty. Because loyalty isn't about never feeling tempted. It's about not feeding temptation. In truth, emotional maturity is the ability to differentiate between feeling alive and living wisely. Those who can't make that distinction will keep repeating the same cycle, falling in love, falling out, chasing newness, and wondering why nothing ever lasts. In the end, the modern woman's tragedy isn't that she can't love. It's that she confuses stimulation with connection and excitement with meaning. But love, real love, is meaning. It's not the fireworks. It's the quiet morning after. It's not the message at midnight. It's the silence that feels safe. It's not the thrill of being desired. It's the peace of being known. When women learn to value that peace over the high, everything changes. Until then, novelty will keep seducing them with the same old promise that somewhere out there is a better feeling, when in truth, the best feeling is learning to stay. Let's talk about what happens after the storm. After the dopamine fades, after the novelty dies, after the relationship stops feeling like a movie, what's left? For most people today, that's the point where they leave. They tell themselves they've outgrown the relationship, that they deserve to feel alive again, that maybe they settled. But what they're really saying is, I don't know how to live without the high. It's not love that dies when the excitement fades. It's illusion. The illusion that passion can be permanent, that romance will always feel cinematic, that the chemical chaos of early attraction is proof of compatibility. But love, real love, begins exactly where dopamine ends. In the first phase of a relationship, you're not in love with a person. You're in love with a feeling, a version of yourself that feels powerful, desired, special. It's fantasy, not intimacy, because intimacy isn't about constant excitement. It's about being seen when you're no longer exciting. The woman addicted to novelty doesn't understand this. She keeps trying to replay the opening scene of a movie that's already over. She meets someone new and feels the spark, but it's not love calling her, it's withdrawal. Her nervous system is chasing a ghost of emotion, confusing arousal for awakening. That's why some women fall in love over and over again, but never truly connect. Because connection requires something she's never practiced: stillness. The ability to sit in peace without craving chaos. There's a moment in every long-term relationship where comfort starts to feel like boredom, where predictability replaces surprise. We already know how their stories end, how they breathe in their sleep, how they like their coffee. And instead of seeing this as intimacy, most people see it as loss. But that's the paradox. You can't have deep love without losing some excitement. You can't have safety and adventure at the same time, not from the same source. The modern woman has been told she can. that she can have stability without sacrifice, desire without discipline, novelty without consequence. But biology doesn't care about empowerment slogans. Chemistry runs on rules older than civilization itself. The dopamine phase makes you fall in love. The oxytocin phase teaches you how to stay there. And if you mistake one for the other, you'll keep rebuilding the same broken bridge, over and over, with new people who all eventually feel the same. I once asked an elderly couple, married 50 years, what their secret was. The wife smiled and said, "We never fell out of love at the same time." What she meant was simple. Love is a rhythm. Sometimes one person carries the spark while the other drifts. Sometimes both drift, and the relationship survives only because neither walks away. Real love isn't constant intensity, it's shared endurance. Modern people don't want endurance. They want euphoria. They want relationships that feel like songs on repeat instead of symphonies that take years to unfold. But euphoria is easy. Endurance is sacred. Every woman who's ever blown up a stable life for an affair eventually faces the same realization. Novelty always decays into normality. The forbidden becomes familiar. The thrill becomes routine, and the cycle resets. I've seen it too many times to count. The new man who once made her feel 18 again now leaves his socks on the floor. The messages that once made her pulse race now go unanswered because life gets busy. And one day, she stares at him the same way she used to stare at her husband, quietly disappointed that the chemicals wore off again. That's when it hits. She wasn't chasing love. She was chasing a version of herself that only exists at the beginning of something. The woman who laughs easily, who feels desired, who glows under attention. She mistakes that state for the relationship. But that version of her can exist inside commitment too, if she chooses to nurture it instead of outsourcing it. The cure for the addiction to novelty isn't to suppress it. It's to understand it. To recognize that the craving for newness isn't evil. It's human. But like all instincts, it needs direction. You can find novelty within the same person. It's called growth. Exploring new sides of each other. Changing together instead of apart. Learning new things. Laughing at new jokes. Traveling new places. Not to reignite dopamine, but to evolve as partners. The strongest relationships aren't the ones that stay the same forever. They're the ones that adapt to the fading of the high and choose curiosity anyway. Let's be honest, it's easier to chase than to stay. Staying requires humility. It requires admitting that love isn't a constant climax, but a lifelong conversation. It requires discipline in a culture that worships impulse. But staying is also where the transformation happens. Because when the chemicals fade and you still choose to love, you shift from instinct to consciousness, from animal to human, from dopamine to devotion. That's where the true beauty of love hides, not in the chaos of beginnings, but in the quiet mastery of continuation. And that's what most modern women miss. They think stability is death. But in reality, it's the soil where real connection grows. It's not dull, it's deep. It's not lifeless, it's life after illusion. The butterflies don't die, they mature. They stop fluttering wildly and start resting calmly in your chest. They become something softer, wiser, and infinitely stronger than excitement. Peace. If you want to understand why modern women can't stay in love, it's not because they're broken. It's because they've been misled. They've been told to chase feeling over meaning, intensity over intimacy, novelty over truth. They've mistaken the tremor of dopamine for the heartbeat of love. But once you understand the mechanism, once you see that the storm always gives way to the calm, you stop fearing the calm. You start craving it. Because calm means safety. Calm means maturity. Calm means you've finally arrived somewhere worth staying. And when you learn to stay, you stop needing new beginnings. Because you realize the greatest adventure isn't in what's new, it's in what endures.